and welcome back, everyone. I'm still on my vacation, but it's my day off. It'd be my normal day off right now. And I'm like, okay, there's been stuff in Magic that came out that I could talk about. I could have been doing spoiler videos for the Modern Horizon, new Modern Horizon ones that came out. But I'm like, not really feeling this. I think I'll wait, honestly, until the Forgotten Realms set to really get into the spoilers for those. So I'm like, okay, let's think of a Pokemon video. I'm like, okay, I can do my top 10 least favorite Kanto Pokemon. I'm like, I did the top 10 favorite ones, but I'm like, is there anything else I can do? And an idea came to mind, obviously you can see in the title, about where we stand right now in terms of the amount of Pokemon we actually have in Pokemon. Like, it is ridiculous. I checked. We stand at 898 Pokemon. We are just 102 shy of the 1,000 mark. And that's scary, actually. Because the question is, we don't know what's going to happen when Game Freak gets that big 1,000 number. We know we're going to get there. We know it's going to happen. But we don't know what's going to happen. Do they reset the whole series? Do they stop making games? As long as they're making millions? Probably not. But do they stop making... That's a scary thing. And one of the reasons it's such a likelihood that fear, one reason that fear is so tangible is just because of how many Pokemon we ultimately have. We have I'm going to be honest, as much as I love the game series, we have too many Pokemon. At least for where we are in the generations, I feel like we have too many Pokemon. So the question came into mind, how many Pokemon should we have? So I basically made a list of all the Pokemon. No, I didn't actually make the list. I wrote down the name. Basically, what I did is I wrote down how many Pokemon we have, went on Cerebi, looked at every Pokemon, obviously, through each generation, and basically asked myself, which Pokemon should just not be there? Which Pokemon should not have been made? And slim down all the generations into what I think the current number of Pokemon ultimately should have been. Now, how did I go about this? Well, it came to a few things. A, design. B, accessibility. C, is there any further potential for this Pokemon? So, an example of that would be Dunsparce is not on this list because even though Dunsparce is extremely hard to find, not useful, from all the fan designs we've seen of regional variants or evolutions for Dunsparce, there's still a lot of room for that Pokemon to, for us to explore with that Pokemon. But the Pokemon just aren't useful in battle. Ideas along those lines. So that's what I did. So I'm gonna just go down the list of Pokemon I think shouldn't exist. Now we'll basically keep narrowing down the number until we get to the final number I think we should be at. But should note, and this is the big thing, this is not going to look the same for everyone else. This is just strictly my opinion, what Pokemon I didn't think would work, and, yours may look differently. Some people think the entire 5th gen should just be cut. I obviously don't fall into that category. But we'll basically go down the list in a little while. Starting now. So, right off the bat, though, I want to say I gave Gen 1 a pass. Gen 1 got the pass because it is literally the first generation of Pokemon. The mistakes that are made in there, the mistakes that are made, I think deserve to stay as a stepping stone for the rest of the generations. And it was the first generation. It deserves, I think, to stay solid. Plus, I can't think of many designs or Pokemon in general in Gen 1 that honestly deserve to go. Like Gen 1, in terms of just like the starting generation of Pokemon, is simplistic and perfect in its own way. There are some more complicated designs, sure, but it is kind of perfect in its own way. It's not my favorite generation, but I think it works the same way. So let's actually just start out with Gen number 2, and that is obviously Johto. Now with Johto, we had 107 new Pokemon. 107, I did get that right? Yes, 107 new Pokemon. No, sorry, 101. 107 with Gen 4. My apologies. Well, 100 new Pokemon. Now, when looking through it, I'm like, I quickly made the distinction that there actually wasn't a huge amount of designs that I had anything against. And keep in mind this is the generation that gave us baby Pokemon. And baby Pokemon are not very well liked in the community, from what I understand. Now, there are exceptions to this, obviously. Like, people love Riolu and the Lucario line. I know Pichu is pretty well loved. I think Togepi is infamous. But when I try to be as subjectively objective, we'll call it, as possible, I'm like, how many of these really deserve to be around? And I came to the conclusion that, honestly, and we'll look more into these as we get into the other generations, because this is the full list of baby Pokemon here, obviously. But the majority of them actually deserve to stay. And the reason for that is because ultimately you can get the majority of these pretty easily in the wild come later generations. Now, within their own respective generations, that is different. That is a different thing in their own respective generations. It's actually very difficult to get a lot of these Pokemon in their respective generations. It's near impossible to get a Munchlax in Gen 4. Cleffa and Igglybuff are hard as hell, or hard as sin to get in Gen 2. Same with Pichu. Same with Magby. Same with Elekid. Like in Gen 2, those sons of bitches are difficult as hell to get. But that's the thing. As these generations went on, it was easier to get these Pokemon. That said, however, there are two baby Pokemon that I would nix nick out of the Johto Pokedex. That is Igglybuff and Cleffa. The reason for that is actually very simple. There were already completed evolutionary lines for them. They came from evolutionary lines that already evolved into something else. It wasn't a standalone Pokemon like Magby or Elekid or Jinx at the time that had, like, where did these Pokemon come from? These were Pokemon that already had an evolutionary line to them. There was no real point to the Igglybuff and Cleffa evolutions when it really came down to it. Now you might be asking, well, what about Pichu? Pichu is a unique case. First off, Pichu's adorable. Pichu's the cutest of those three. Let's not argue that. Pichu is more adorable than Togepi, and I will fight on the hill for that. I'll fight to the death on the hill for that. But Pichu also has a lot more personality and has been a lot more centered and prominent in other medias in the Pokemon universe. It's actually had its own little animated special with, I think, either Togepi or Pikachu, if I remember correctly. And you can catch Pichu's wild in Route 1 in the Alola games, in Sun and Moon, and Ultra Sun and Moon. So it's actually pretty accessible to get a Pichu if you want one. Whereas with Cleffa and Igglybuff and Magby, Elekid, because I looked these up, Smoochum, you can catch all these guys in the wild. Whereas, while I think you can get an Igglybuff or a Cleffa in the wild. I will double check that as I speak right now. While I think you can get these guys in the wild, it then begs the question, do you really want to get them? I mean, it sounds a little like, harsh against them, but when you break it down, do you really want to get them? Because, you can't catch them in the wild in Sun and Moon. You got to max raid that, or it's got to be one of the islands. But, like in Sun and Moon, you can find Igglybuffs in the Route 4 and Route 6, sure. But to me, unlike Pikachu, Raichu is, I think, just a better Pokemon than Clefairy. The Fairy type is great, but whatever. Pikachu and Raichu, I think they're just better. They got better stats. And then you add Psychic onto Alola and Raichu. I just think you have a better Pokemon, whereas Igglybuff and Cleffa just don't really make sense to me. So that is the babe Pokemon that I think should be cut. And again, this is all just my opinion. The only other Johto Pokemon I thought needed to be cut was Quillfish. Other standalone Pokemon makes sense. And Miltank, notorious. Whitney is notorious with that. Miltank had to stay. The Fortress line, even though it's not singleized, Heracross, fantastic. I love Heracross. Is like a fan favorite. Come on. But Quillfish, it's not the easiest to find. and B is just a water poison type that just exists. I get it. It's a Quillfish and a Landmine kind of together, but it's not the best overall. Like, it's just the Pokemon that exists. And let's be there. It's cool to, take pictures of it in Snap and do the fun stuff with Pokemon Snap. But, yeah, ultimately, Quillfish just didn't need to really be. It does not need to be. So that takes us. That's 3 Pokemon that I feel should have been taken out of Gen 2. That means instead of the 100, we only had 97, which given more recent generations is hardly a sacrifice. But more importantly, it takes away 3 Pokemon from the 898 and puts us now to 895. Yeah, not really anything major in terms of how much room we had for new Pokemon for later generations. Well, now I get into what I might contend may be my favorite generation, Gen 3, the Hoenn region games. And everything else that came along with there, obviously. Now, the Hoenn region games, I'm like, okay, because it is my favorite generation. I've openly stated that a few times. Now, maybe that's changed if I really go back and think on, like, if I were to list categories for ranking, like, my favorite generations of Pokemon, and basically try to say, okay, well, if these qualifications need to be met, and I went through it again, and maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. Maybe Gen 3 no longer qualifies as my favorite generation. But as it stands in my head right now, Gen 3 is my favorite generation. But as I'm going through it, I'm like, actually, Gen 3 could stand to lose a few, quite frankly. So Gen 3 had 107 new Pokemon in it. Now, looking at it, I'm like, okay, what needs to go? Well, right off the bat, Lovedis needs to go. Lovedis is just dumb. It's just a heart with a face that's a fish. If it had at least evolved into Alomola, which looked perfect, by the way, that would have been the perfect escalation of evolution, then yeah, I don't think anyone would really complain about the design of, well, they'd complain, but they wouldn't have complained anywhere near as much as about Lovedis. But unfortunately, I don't see the point of Lovedis. It's not a very good Pokemon. It doesn't need to exist, quite frankly. This one might be a bit more controversial, but Chimecho. Chimecho, I don't think is a Pokemon that needed to exist. Now, yes, James had a Chimecho, and it was very, it was, fat, cool, and everything. And I like the fact that it is a wind chime kind of ornament Pokemon. But it's hard as balls to find. It only shows up on Mount Pyre. Tropius and Absol, who for some reason, Chimecho, Absol, and Tropius all fall into like the same, like the 3 are all next to each other in the Pokedex, which I think is to illustrate they're both rare single stage Pokemon that you can find. But Absol and Tropius actually can be found within the same route. And Absol actually has a bigger range than Tropius does. So, of the 3, Chimecho is the hardest to find, and it's probably the least useful, frankly. It's a pure psychic type, which in a world where dark types exist, isn't as great as it used to be. Absol alone can tank most of what Chimecho throws at it. And Tropius is a dual type with flying and grass, so even though it's got the flying weakness, it can learn enough moves to basically counteract Chimecho as well, and it can learn TMs like Fly. So it's frankly more useful than Chimecho is. Frankly, I've never actually dug on Chimecho that much, to be frank. To me, and spoilers, that goes along with Chingling too. If Chimecho goes, Chingling goes too. But we'll save that for the next one, or next gen. So yeah, Chimecho would be another one that I would 86 out of there. Next would be the Gulpin line. Because I look at Gulpin, I'm like, okay, it's a living stomach with a kissy face. And Swalot's just a bigger stomach with a kissy face and a feather. I never understood the feather. It might be based off some sort of yokai. But yeah, I'm like, first up, design-wise, they're not that good design-wise. And second, I'm like, they're kind of just a muck substitute. You can find them early on, but I mean, they're just a generic poison. There's not anything really unique about them. They're not a good design. They're far from the worst. There's at least some originality to it, unlike when we get to Gen 5. But yeah, Gulpin and Swalot, 86th by. Now, these next two kind of go hand in hand with each other. So, we have Clamperl. Now, you might be thinking, well, get rid of Clamperl, Gorbis, and Huntail. I actually think the problem isn't Clamperl. The problem is the fact that these evolutions don't make any sense. Huntail is basically some sort of eel fish. Or eels are fish, but you know what I mean. It's like some sort of long predatory fish. And Gorbis is some sort of sucker predatory fish of some kind with two shell either fins or it's wearing a bra. I mean, look, that thing looks like it's wearing a bra. And like as Pokemon, I like Huntail okay, but as Pokemon, Gloribus is really ugly. Like that's an ugly. Huntail's not the best either, but it at least looks a bit more. It at least has a better design, I feel, than Gloribus does. It at least looks more fun to use. But the problem is, like, first off, they evolved from Clamperl, which makes no sense. It implies that the only part of Clamperl that's actually the Pokemon is that little pink orb. But furthermore, it's like you need, you need certain items to evolve these things. I can't remember. I think you need two separate items or one separate item for each of them. So two different items, one for Gloribus, one for Huntail. First off, I've never liked trait evolutions to begin with. But you'll notice most of the Pokemon on here aren't going to be trait evolutions because I still like the evolutions, most of them, like Alakazam, Machamp, Golem. I still love those Pokemon. I just don't. I get why they existed at the time, but now it's like, what about the people who just want to play the game by themselves? That's why ROM hacks are kind of so fun because, like, oh, okay, you're not going to be trading. We're just going to evolve them at this point, so it's all good. That's why it's like. Yeah, why didn't you just do that? Like, I get the trading was to help people make friends, but it kind of messed up a lot of the game for the rest of us. And then you get item trade evolutions, which are even worse. Now, you'll notice Scizor or Steelix didn't make that on the list for Gen 2. And that's due to the fact that I really like Scizor, and Steelix is pretty cool. And you can catch Steelix wild as of as early as Gen 4. So, at Scizor, you can't do that. Actually, no, you can. I don't know if you can find them wild, but thanks to the Max Raid Den, Max Raid Dens really helped, or just, gigantic, or Dynamax Dens in general, really helped with the whole getting trade Pokemon. Same with the overworld stuff, too. Like the Pokemon they evolved through trading and stuff like that, or through special means like Milotic. It made it a lot easier. And that's why I have less hate on trade Pokemon these days. You'll also notice, too, Milotic's not going to be on this list because I've still got two more gym Pokemon to talk about. And that's because I've been able to get a Milotic before. And I love Milotic's one of my favorite Pokemon. 100% Milotic's one of my favorite Pokemon. At least among my favorite Gen 3 Pokemon. Anyway, so, yeah, Huntail and Gorbis. 86 of them. Keep Clamperl, though. Clamperl, I think, is a cute little Pokemon. And honestly, could have been like the appropriate way to do a Luvdis. Just this one-off cute Pokemon. Whereas Luvdis is just stupid. Now, this next one is going to be a bit controversial. But Latios and Latios. Gen 3 is when we started to have, I think, a few too many Legendaries in one gen. And Latios, as much as I love them, I love Latios a lot more. Latios is cute, but Latios is cool. And I got Omega Ruby, so I got Latios. But as much as I like them, and I do like their design, like in terms of them being there, they literally are just there. There's not really much lore on them. They're the Eon Duo. That's all they're known as. But for the rest of the regions, like, okay, well, we have the regions based more on like the creation of the oceans and the continents and, weather patterns to some degree. We haven't had a true weather hot, global warming or global cooling kind of Ice Age type game. I hope that's what Gen 9 is going to be. You've seen my Gen 9 title and story predictions. That's where I've kind of predicted it could go. But yeah, it's like, okay, so Groudon, he created the land. Kyogre, the sea. Rayquaza is the in-between. He lives in the sky, and he keeps them at balance. Okay, Deoxys. It's an alien. Okay, that's fine. It landed the Earth. That's cool. There's one. Jirachi's a little wish gin. That's cute. The Reggies are, golems made by, man-made golems. Or Regigigas, depending on how you look at the lore. But the Eon Duo just is there. And as much as I like using Latios in playthrough Omega Ruby, there's no real point to having him. The only real point is, they're legendary, so they got great stats, but that's it. Dragon Psychic's a good typing, but there are better Dragon Psychic types out there now. So, unfortunately, as much as I love this gen, they had to go. So, of the 170, I ditched 10 Pokemon. That puts us down to 86. What's 86? Yeah, right. 161 overall. I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. I lost 8 Pokemon. That puts us down to 887. So now we lost a bigger gap. So then we get to Gen 4. Now, Gen 4, I'm like, okay, Gen 4 had one of the smallest amounts of Pokemon to be introduced at 107. Surprisingly, though, it actually, when I looked it over, I actually ended up getting rid of quite a few of Pokemon in this generation. Spoilers, if you were listening a few seconds ago, I kind of misspoke of who got 86th, or how many got 86th. But going back real quick to baby Pokemon, as I'm just setting everything up here real quick. Going back to baby Pokemon real quick. There actually, besides Chingling, Chingling had to go. The only other one I could think of getting rid of was Mr. Mime Jr. And that's really just because there was no point to Mr. Mime Jr. Like, of all the other ones, Mr. Mime Jr., gone, go, Chingling, go. And this one is going to hurt, I think, a lot of people. Munchlax. Snorlax is a perfect one-off Pokemon. It completely is a perfect single-stage one-off Pokemon that you can get in about 50% of the main series games. Think about that for a second. You can get it in Gen 1. That's easy. If you're able to get a Munchlax, and that's another big reason for Munchlax getting 86, because it's near impossible to get. You can get it in Gen 4. You can get it in Gen 6. You can get it in Gen 8. That's half of the generations. And it's a beast of a Pokemon. So, like, there was no... Munchlax is cute, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't really match, unfortunately. It just it didn't need to be. It just didn't need to be. If we're talking about things that didn't need to be, it did not need to be. Another one that I forgot to add this one on, but Porygon Z. Porygon Z doesn't need to exist. The reason for that? Porygon 2, frankly, didn't need to exist. Porygon was another one that was pretty much a decent one-off. But the reason Porygon 2 stayed in the listing for the Johto Pokemon, whereas Porygon Z makes it off, not only is it a trait evolution, it's a 2 times trait evolution. F off with that. But second, and you know how hard it is? I mean, Porygon in the original game isn't as hard to get as you think. You just get it at the game corner. But then in the second one, to basically try to upgrade the damn thing, that's irritating. But at least I understand the mindset behind that. It's a completely 100% artificial digital Pokemon. I get that. It's a computer program, basically. And in theory, I get Porygon Z being beyond that. But, like, then you read the spoken as it seems to have, like, evolved these weird things, like it's mutated or something like that, like a virus. Like, no, you gave it another disc of upgrades. In theory, this is a Pokemon that, unlike any other Pokemon in the game, could just keep getting upgrades. Porygon Z makes no sense. The first Porygon barely makes sense to me. You know, honestly, I'll tell you what. If there was one Pokemon that I could axe off of the original 150 one, it would be Porygon. It would be Porygon. But I digress. So, apart from those guys, though, who else did I have on this list? Well, this one might be a sore topic for some people. And so will the next one. Togekiss. And why is that? Because really, when I look at the Togepi line, Togetic actually makes some logical sense in terms of the design of the Pokemon. It looks like Togepi grew out of the egg, and the egg basically became part of its body. I mean, it always looked like it was stuck in the egg, but ultimately it does look like it grew past the egg. This doesn't make any sense. Like, this is an extreme departure from Togetic and Togepi. I mean, it still looks like it's got the color palette, it's got the face, and it's got the horn, but it's like, I think it's supposed to be like a kite, isn't it? This Pokemon really does not add up to me at all. I don't understand why this Pokemon is a thing, to be frank. Not to mention, the Togepis are not easy to find outside of the egg you get in Gen 2. Now, keep in mind, I'm aware that you can find them wild. But I'm just trying to remember without going to Cerebi right now to look for them. Like, where in the games I think you can find them in max raid dens. Of course you can, but like in just Shield and Sword, can you do that? Can you find them in max raid dens? I can't remember if they're actually part of the standard line in Galar. I'm gonna actually look that up right now. I want to look up how hard it is to find a Togepi in some of these games. Bridgefield. Okay. Bridgefield. Okay, max raid dens, okay, so you can find Togepis in the wild area. Okay, what about Gen 7? Can you find them wild? Breed Toga, nope. Trade from some, wait. Breed Togekiss. So in order to get a Togepi in Sun and Moon, you need a Togekiss. Which to get a Togekiss, you need a Togepi. Ass backward logic if I have ever heard it. Friend Safari, that's it. You can hatch it. Okay, you can get apparently from the egg in Lavaridge Town. So there is that in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. There is that. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, man, Togepis are hard to get. Even then, they're not that great. Yeah, they're fairy type, but not that hard to get. And Togekiss, strong as it is, doesn't make a lot of sense, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense. What also doesn't make sense is, look, and I'm talking about another good one-off. Look, it's a perfectly good one-off Pokemon. What the hell is this monstrosity? This fat, son of a bitch looking to lick someone's butt. Like, literally, that's what's it. It's just sit on my tongue, bitch. Like, that's what this thing looks like. It looks like some fat, slobby pervert ready to dine in on someone. God almighty, this thing is nightmarish. So yeah, licky, gone. Now, I do like, design-wise, Heatran. I do like Heatran design. I actually think it's a really decently designed Pokemon. Fire Steel. Don't see that type very often. In fact, come to think of it, do we see Fire Steel outside of Heatran now that I say that out loud? Seeing as I got the whole type charts up here right now, I can check that really quick. Fire Steel. Anything besides Heatran ever have Fire Steel? Because I'm actually really drawing a blank on that. Because that's something that we should... he is the only Fire Steel Pokemon. Similar to Empoleon's the only Water Steel Pokemon. And I've said it before. If you told me this was the final design of the third stage evolution of a starter Pokemon, this would be a damn cool starter Pokemon. But as a legendary, it just doesn't need to exist. It doesn't need to exist. And I mean, as much as I like the Fire Steel typing, it's also times 4 weak to ground, which is not fun. It's still weak as hell to water. Like, the Steel doesn't give it any special reason. The only thing the Steel really does is give it an immunity to poison, which is nothing unless you got corrosion. So there you go. That gets nullified. Gives you some resistance to fairy. It makes him times 2 weak now to fighting. It's like Steel type with fire doesn't really work out very well. So I mean, it's more resistant to grass, which was already resistant to. So yeah, Heatran doesn't work. Speaking of Pokemon that do not work in the Legendary and Mythic category, Manaphy and Phion can suck it. There's no reason for these Pokemon to exist. Okay, Manaphy I could forgive if you could get it a lot easier, but you can't. You gotta get it out in a different game, and then get the Phion egg in a different game. And why the hell do you have these two idiots that exist together and not have them evolve into each other? Phion should evolve into Manaphy. There shouldn't be just Phion and Manaphy. It's clear these two Pokemon are too close related to not evolve into one another. But instead you just said, oh, no. It's, it's just a separate Pokemon. Why? Why? You already would introduce evolving mythics and legendaries later on in the series. Why? I don't know. This Pokemon just is dumb. It's stupid. It does not need to exist. Now, here's the other really controversial one, but hear me out on this. Spiritomb. Look, Spiritomb is really cool. I've always loved this, the design of this thing. This is a really cool idea for a Pokemon. It is. But this goes to the problem I've said I've had with trading as well. When you design a Pokemon that you need an item to get it, first off, the Keystone. Cool, right on. I can understand. That's perfectly acceptable. Then you need to go into the underground. All right, why do I gotta go? Then you gotta encounter, what was it again? Actually, I'm getting Spiritomb's stuff up here right now, so give me a second. Then you have to encounter how many people in the underground? Okay, yeah. A Pokemon that was for, oh no, sorry. Yeah. So Diamond Pearl location. Hallowed ground requires, in Diamond it requires, Hallowed ground requires odd keystone and talking to 32 people total in the Sinnoh underground. This is not 32 NPCs, because there really weren't any. This is 32 people in the underground. How many of us actually went through this process? How many people seriously tried to do this? And how many people went insane trying to do this? Because let's also be honest here, going into all the other generations really quick, let's just talk about Gen 5 real quick. How easy was it to get Spiritomb in Gen 5? Oh, you had to transfer it over from the Dream World, which was another stupid freaking thing. So yeah, no, that wait, what was that? I saw trade with Rui Tensa and Nimbasa. So you could get it in Black and White 2 through a trade. Great. You made one game accessible. How about X and Y? Oh, Friend Safari? Oh, well. C Mauville? Seriously? That's right. You know what? That's right. In theory, you can't find this in C Mauville. Late ass in the game through other circumstance. I do believe it's like a static encounter. So, I'll give you one pass on that one. Transferred, though, from Gen 7. From Gen 7 from Gen 6. And finally, let me see here. Let me guess. Only in a max raid, Balamir Lake? And Crown Tundra. DLC! Screw you. Or transfer from a home and trade. So screw the game makers for trying to, I get they were trying to be clever with its lore for this, but screw you guys for making this near impossible to get. Because it's a cool Pokemon. It was the first Ghost Dark type, and basically had no weaknesses at the time. Then Gen 6 came around and made it less expressive, but still fun. I've always wanted to use one, and you made it near impossible to do. So yeah, Spiritomb. So in Gen 4, there were 107 new Pokemon. I basically took out 10 that made 97 new Pokemon. That brought us down to 861 new Pokemon. Now that was actually a significant drop. That was actually a very significant drop. I misspoke on that. Actually, I think I did not make a mistake here. Did I make a mistake? Hold on, I'm actually realizing I might have made a mistake on my math here, folks. 8, 10. No, I did not. We're down to 877. That's where we're at. 877. I apologize. So now we get into Gen 5. Seeing as we're now over the 30-minute mark, I am going to just kind of speed through this without the images now. Just to kind of put a bit more of a rush on it now. Just because I think it needs it. So 2/4 Pokemon that need to be gone. And that is Carablast, Shelmet, I can't even pronounce the other two names, and their evolutions. The reason for that is trade evolution is bad enough, but when you can only get to these Pokemon through 2 specific other Pokemon trading with each other, you're just being an asshole now, Game Freak. Like that. Again, I get it. Pokemon is supposed to be a community experience, but guess what? Not everyone does that. I think the trade evolution just needs to stop at this point. I think it honestly needs to stop at this point. Because I can't, and honestly, I think Game Freak is kind of finally hinting on that, because come Gen 8, I actually don't recall any Pokemon that evolved with a trade at that point. Just going through that real quick. No, there were no trade evolution Pokemon as far as I could find. Gen 7, there were, I don't believe there were any trade evolution Pokemon. I don't think so. Lorena, nope. And no, there were no trade evolution Pokemon Gen 7 or 8. I think once Gen 6 came around, I think they kind of keyed into the fact that not a lot of people like trade Pokemon anymore. Like, it's just not that fun to try to figure that out. Yeah, if your friends have the game too, that's one thing. But not always. Not always that fun, folks. Now you'll notice in Gen 4, I didn't go after like Rhyperior or Electivire or Magmortar. Most of their design, Rhyperior's design isn't that great, but most of their designs are actually pretty good. While finding the item is difficult, that's to me not much more. That's not much more egregious than, say, Scizor or Steelix, in my opinion. And you were able to catch a couple of those guys in Gen 8 thanks to the max raid deads. So yeah. Sigilyph, though, was another Pokemon. I'm like, this Pokemon just is stupid. Like, I don't get this Pokemon. It's not very. No. Now, I hear it's not actually bad in combat, but it wasn't for me. Same with Maractus. To me, that's just one of the big problems Gen 5 had, and I will definitely agree with this, is that it did like a completely fresh 150 dex. I'm like, that's awesome. Cool. Nothing but new Pokemon. But A, you didn't balance it right, like in terms of when you can get these Pokemon. But B, and even more importantly, you just made carbon copies of a lot of Pokemon. And Maractus, maybe not a carbon copy of Cacnea and Cacturn, is basically the stand-in for him. Throw and Swak, two more Pokemon that I would axe off here, are obviously Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Trubbish and Garbodor, gone. Like, I axed them off too. Because they are nothing more than a terrible muck stand-in. And then the whole Vanillish line. Whose idea was it to make ice cream a Pokemon? So, out of the 156 of Unova Pokemon, I took out about 16 of them. I forgot to mention, Kling, Clang, and Kling Clang. They're just freaking gears. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, all those ones, that's another 16 gone. Now we were hitting about 861 at that point. Now we're hitting areas of Pokemon like, okay, if Gen 5 were to happen now, or Gen 9 were to happen now, there would be nearly 139 spots for new Pokemon. So if they were to still cram out those small spots, we would still have a pretty decent chunk for 2 more generations to get to Gen 10, which I think is what they might want to do, is try to get to Gen 10 for a new Pokemon. To hit that 1,000 marker. But then we get into Kalos, and this might surprise you. I actually felt all the designs in Kalos were pretty tight. Like, I looked through them again, I'm like, no, I like that. I mean, some of them I love more than others, but I'm like, no, the designs of this generation are actually all really solid. Like, there really wasn't a bad design here at all, in my mind. So, I'm like, that gen actually got a full pass for me. And they did have the advantage that because they were now consolidating the amount of Pokemon in each gen, they were able to make it so they could kind of, I think, work on the designs a bit more. Of course, that being said, we come to Alola. Now, with Alola, there weren't a huge amount of 86s from, like, the main Pokemon. So, like, I actually say this, though. Take out Stuffy, or Stuffle. I can get the picture. I can get the pictures back up for Stuffle here real quick. Take out Stuffle. Because I think Beware, frankly, worked better as it's just a single stage Pokemon. Stuffle's cute, don't get me wrong, but I think Beware works better as a single stage Pokemon. I just don't think Stuffle needs to exist. Then also take out this abomination right here. Take Brush out of the equation, 100%. This is just an ugly ass Pokemon. Yeah, it's a water psychic anglerfish, parrotfish kind of thing. Take it out. Then here's the thing. I obviously never used them in the game because, frankly, you only get them until after the game in both Sun and Moon and Shield and Sword. Savali and Type Null. I honestly think you need to go either. You need to have either just Type Null or Savali. I do not think Savali needs to evolve from Type Null because all Savali is Type Null is Savali with a headpiece on it, because its body doesn't change at all. So that's really all it is. It's Savali with a headpiece on it. That's Type Null. But apparently it thinks it's Type Null. It doesn't think it's Savali. So if it were to be me, or honestly, what I think you should try to do, what I think you should do anyway, is take out Type Null, keep Savali, but rename that Type Null, because it's a man-made experiment to create Arceus, basically, or Arceus. And I like that. So make this Type Null. Make this the Pokemon that was experiment. There was no need to have Type Null, quite frankly. There wasn't. So then we have a big thing to talk about here. And that is, because ultimately Alola had 80 Pokemon and lost a full 10. Why did it lose a full 10? Well, sorry, it lost a full 13. I apologize. So why did it lose a full 13? Well, this is all questioning on whether or not you count the Ultra Beast towards the actual dex. They are numbered in the Pokedex, so I'm guessing Game Freak does. Ultra Beasts are just legendary Pokemon. That's all they are. They're just legendary Pokemon, and that means that Alola has the majority of legendary Pokemon in probably all the game. Plus, ratio to standard Pokemon in the in like the Dex wise, there's only 80 Pokemon in the Alola region when you count these guys in there. Like, seriously, what the hell? That's literally, and there's about 10 of them, if I'm not mistaken, Ultra Beasts. Yeah, honestly, the Ultra Beast, I think, should have been something Game Freak could have experimented with as basically boss battles that you couldn't catch. Like unattainable Pokemon that you can't get, basically. That's what I think the Ultra Beast honestly should have been. Because honestly, their designs aren't that cool. I mean, they're not bad or anything. Like, Buzzwolf's kind of cool. Like, Guzzlord's just stupid looking. There's the one that looks kind of like Guzma, the living electrical wild, the one that's basically like a jester with an exploding head. Like, some of them are fine, but like, what's the point of these? What was ultimately the point of Ultra Beast? The only Ultra Beasts that matter in the actual gameplay are Necrozma, Solgaleo, the Cosmog line, basically, and Lunala. That's it. Those are the only Pokemon, those are the only Ultra Beasts that really matter. And you basically could have said that they were still Ultra Beasts and, had that, be a thing, and, let the fan speculation begin on what alternate takes on Pokemon, alternate worlds would have looked like. And because they are numbered in the Pokedex, Game Freak clearly counts them as such. I'm like, no, you shouldn't have done that. You really should not have done that. So 13 Pokemon got clipped from Alola. That brought it from 861 to 848. So last but not least, that left us now with Galar. Now, similar to Alola's base Pokedex, there wasn't a lot of trimming I actually needed to do, I felt, for this Pokedex. That being said, there were three three Pokemon that I did ultimately get rid of in the Pokedex for this generation. Now, one is obvious, one that I think most fans just don't like. Stone Joiner. This is just stupid. Like, this is just stupid. Like, I get it. Geodude is a rock with a face. I get that, but it's got arms. It actually has a personality. And guess what? It doesn't have a face that looks like a dumb, derpy electronic. I just made an emoji face pasted on it. This thing has an emoji face on it. Like, this is dumb as hell. This is really stupid. So that's that. Also, although apparently this Pokemon is very useful in combat, SQ, it's if they had actually tried to make the body look more like a Pokemon and not literally a penguin's body with a giant ice cube or small ice cube, depending on the circumstance, on its head, maybe I could have gotten more behind this Pokemon. But this is dumb as shit. Like, design-wise, this is dumb as shit. That said, I'm actually very aware this thing can be useful in battle. I've seen gameplay where this thing is very useful in battle. But in terms of, like, the actual Pokemon itself, as a concept, as a design, this thing's stupid. This is really stupid. The last one isn't so much stupid as I just felt unnecessary. We already had a regional variant on Meowth. Why did we need another one? And further to the point, why did we need a regional evolution for it? And honestly, that's the only reason Berserker, I feel, needs to be clipped from 86th out of the Galar Dex, because there's no reason for another immediate version of a regional variant Meowth. There wasn't. And because of that means that because it doesn't need to exist in the Pokedex, regional evolution Berserker does not need to exist in the Pokedex. So by that logic, at least by that logic for me, Berserker needed to go. So that ultimately brought the number of Pokemon I think should exist down from 898 to 845. That's 155 extra Pokemon Game Freak could have had to fill out regions. If you wanted to go big, you could have gone 155 on like 100 next region or 100 on the next 10th generation, and like 55 small ones on the 9th generation. But I mean, to make it more evened out, you could have gone 80-70 split. Honestly, we probably would have been a little upset about that, but we would have been okay ultimately in the end. So I mean, that's where I think we should have been ultimately. I know a lot of people are probably going to keep saying, like, Univa's deck sucks overall. And I'm like, yes, but when you look at design, all concept, all that, like, you didn't see me, like, bash on any, first off, you didn't see me bash on any regional forms, because regional forms are a way to fill out the decks beyond just the new Pokemon you make, and still not actually fill up the decks. So I actually really appreciate regional forms quite a bit. But you'll notice in Unova, I didn't bash on like the elemental monkeys because, well, they're not good. In concept, I like them. The see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil concept. And the fact that they're little elemental monkeys that evolve with stones, I'm like, that's a cool concept. I see what they're going for there. Despite the fact they're not very good, doesn't change the fact that they still were trying something really cool with that. Whereas with like Garbodor and Trubbish, they're just a ripoff of Muck. With Throw and Swak, they're just a ripoff of think words here, of Hitmonchan. Honestly, I probably could have included like the Girder line in there. Is it Boulder Girder? And maybe the Rock line in there. But the thing is, I like Conkeldurr enough, like design wise, and you can catch those guys wild now. Same with Gigalith. In like Sun and Moon, Shield and Sword. So I give those guys a pass. But yeah, there's a lot of. I just realized another one. I completely forgot another one would have cut out there. Bring it down to 884. Oh crap! What was his name? The single stage dragon from Unova. Hold on. Where is that son of a bitch? Where is Dragon? I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but I will get it. Drudagon. That's just a dragon. It's just a dragon. And while I'm perfectly fine with single stage dragons, Drampa and Turtonator, I have no problem with. This thing, A, is not that best designed, and B, just kind of useless. Like, what's the stats on a Drudagon real quick? Drudagon's stats overall are his stats are overall not even 500. Like, he's a dragon who's doesn't even have 500 in base stats. Hell, even Flapple and Applin have more than that, if I remember correctly. Or Flapple and not Flapple and Applin. What are the damn dragons' names? Flapple and Appleton? Is that it? That what their names? I've got the dragon list up here. Flapple, yeah, Appleton. I'm pretty sure they have over 500 in stats. That's because they're evolved Pokemon. And they get Gigantamax forms, so they got that advantage going on for them over Drudagon. Like Drampa and Turtonator or Turtonator. Actually, their base stat total is 485 also, now that I look at it. But difference is they do get some better abilities than Drudagon gets. So why am I in attacks right now? Dragon type. I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, and then you look at, like, say, Drampa and Turtonator. I'm not looking at them right now. By the way, we're pretty much done with this right now, but I'm just looking into it real quick. Do they also only have 485, or do they at least have a 500? Okay, so they have 485 too, but they at least have the advantage of dual typing. So, and then, I give that for Appleton and Flapple as well. So yeah, they at least have the advantage of dual typing, whereas it's just a single stage dragon with not the best stat total in the world. So yeah, ultimately, I feel we should be probably down more to like a 844 with 156 Pokemon left to go over, which now makes that an even number. So if you wanted to split that evenly between the gens, you could go 777, or no, sorry, 778. Or sorry, why am I saying 778? 78 Pokemon per generation if you wanted to. And that's still I think reasonable amount at this point. So yeah, that's where I think we should be. Sorry this video went so long, kind of lingered in the beginning. But ultimately that is just my thoughts. How many Pokemon do you think there should still be? Put in the comments below, let me know. But thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, want to review something, put in the comments below, let us know, I'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Super Magic, what if, anything you do in the channel. Put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll do that at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified, and I'll see you next time. Later.